Yo, what's going on, everybody? We have the new SEP 8.5 update. So I'm going to go over all the changes right now. There's some system changes, trades, champions. Pretty much, if you need to know what's out and what's in, this is going to be the video for you. So first off, system changes. Items now pop off carousel units, so you no longer are tied to the unit plus the item. And then they're also introducing a new mechanic called glitched out carousels, which is it's just a glitched out carousel. It will include different things than you normally expect. So stage 2 carousel, that's not the first one, but that's the one on stage 2.5 is always glitched, and then other ones have a chance to be as well. So this can include things like champion duplicator on one of your units. This could have multiple items. You could pick up item anvils. It could have all sorts of wacky combinations. It could have like a bow and a rod there, for example. So that definitely is something new. And I think it's decent. It's nothing too crazy, in my opinion, because as long as everything is like fair and everyone gets the same options, not same options, but same power levels, it should be fine. Now onto the traits. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 new traits that they're adding in. The first one's going to be Infiniteam. And also, by the way, guys, I know I'm like missing images and stuff. It's because like I was on vacation, so I didn't actually have time to set everything up like during the preset previews. But I'll try to add them in a little bit later on the website, BunnyMuffins.lol. But Infiniteam opens a portal to an alternate timeline, and at the start of combat, any Infiniteam unit placed on a portal summons an alternate version of themselves with different items. They get 1 for each augment you own, so it expands as you kind of level up throughout the game. And then the copies have reduced health and damage, and that changes depending on whether you have 3, 5, or 7. And by the way, all these numbers are subject to change. And then the units are Lucian, Pantheon, Sivir, Shen, Twisted Fate, and Ultimate Ezreal. They have 2 Ezreals in the game now. We'll get more into that when we hit the unit sections down here. Next one up we have is Parallel. Ezreal learns from his older, more handsome self and joins him in the future adventures. And then Ezreal's ability becomes a blast that hits all enemies in a line. And then Ultimate Ezreal summons 1 additional temporal duplicate. And then obviously those 2 units are both the Ezreals. Quick Draw. After every 2 damaging ability projectiles, Quick Draw units fire a bonus ability projectile, and the bonus shots deal a bunch of more damage. And then these units are Lucian, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, and Misfortune. So they are removing some traits. We'll get into that later as well. Riftwalker. Riftwalkers open a gap between dimensions and summon their ally Zac, who grows in power based on the star level of Riftwalkers. Zac gains the last listed trait of the closest Riftwalker. So that's going to be Pyke, Vex, and Jhin. These are all new champions. And then they adjusted some traits. Hacker, it now gives 10% or 20% for the rider if you have 3 or 4 hacker. I thought this should have happened before. There's actually a YouTube comment that I saw, and they're saying like, hey, why don't you put this unit that's not a hacker onto the hacker thing so that they gain lifesteal? And I'm like, does not work like that right now, but it will work like that in the future. Next one up is Oxforce. So Oxforce has the same immunity from before, but the stats they gain are different. It's going to be armor and magic resist from now on. They also removed civilian and recon, so no more Galio or any of that. No more mana regen, and then no more of the recon reroll comp. Next up, we have champions. So first one's going to be Lucian. He's a 1-cost unit. He's Infiniteam, Quick Draw, and Renegade, and his ability is Chrono Barrage. So passively, he deals bonus magic damage, and then his active ability fires 4 shots in his target direction. Each shot deals magic damage to the first target hit. Next up, we have Pantheon. Pantheon is also an Infiniteam, but he's then a Heart. His ability is Time Out. He leaps onto his target, dealing magic damage and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. He then grants himself a health shield for 4 seconds. Pyke is the next one up. 2-cost unit, Riftwalker Hacker. Phantom Undertows the ability. Pyke stabs his current target for true damage. He then summons a Phantom at his current location and dashes behind the furthest enemy. After 1 second, the Phantom returns to Pyke, stunning all enemies it passes through for a couple of seconds and then dealing magic damage to them. Next one up we have is Gnar. Gnar slashes around himself, dealing physical damage to enemies hit, and his current target takes 300% damage and the ability critically strikes them. Morgana is the next champion. She is a threat. They are removing some of them, and her ability is Dark Binding. When Morgana deals damage to an enemy, she 40% sunders them, which is reducing armor, and shreds them for 4 seconds, which is reducing magic resistance. Her active ability, she sends out Dark Bindings towards the 2 closest enemies, dealing magic damage and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. So she's kind of like a CC threat. Shen is the next one up. Shen tethers himself to an ally who has the most damage this round, and he reduces all damage he takes by them for a couple of seconds. And then while the tether is active, his ally is invulnerable, and any damage they would take is redirected to Shen instead. Vex She's a Riftwalker and mascot. Shadow Surge. Vex launches a blast of gloom at her current target, dealing magic damage, and then every third cast, her gloom becomes unstoppable, passing through enemies and dealing damage to each enemy hit. Aatrox is a new 4-cost threat. His ability is Soul Crush. Aatrox sucks the soul of his enemies and deals magic damage to them, gaining max health. And then he unleashes his demonic form for the rest of combat, replacing his spell with the Darkened Blade. The Darkened Blade, he slams his greatsword down on his target, dealing magic damage to all enemies hit and healing himself for some health. So he's going to be like the new 4-cost tank from threats. But I guess he's not a pure tank. He's like tank and damage from what it seems. Garen is a Mecha Prime Defender, obviously replacing Set because that's the same exact trait line. Mecha Justice, Garen brings his sword down on a nearby enemy, dealing physical damage and also stunning them. Jhin, Riftwalker Renegade, of course he's going to be a 4-cost unit. Otherworldly Flourish. Jin's attack speed, I'm actually curious to see what Jin's augments are because it's always going to be the 4 theme. But his attack speed is always 0.8, 0.8, or 1. He converts 80% of bonus attack speed into attack damage and replaces every 4th auto with an ability cast. He fires a bullet towards the lowest enemy and deals physical damage to all his enemies in a line, increase up to based on their missing health. The bullet's damage is reduced by 43% each time it hits an enemy. That one's pretty cool, so it's just going to be a straight projectile. Nico is a Star Guardian Spellslinger and Hop Blossom. She throws out her Frog Familiar at her target. It hops to the nearest enemy 3 times, each dealing magic damage to enemies in an area. The last hop is empowered, dealing magic damage to enemies in a larger area instead. Twisted Fate, Infiniteam Duelist Spellslinger, it's time to duel. Twisted Fate draws cards and begins drawing another card after every auto. After 2.5 seconds, TF throws all of his drawn cards, each dealing magic damage. The final card is a red card that deals magic damage and explodes around enemies. The final card thrown is a red card that deals damage to nearby enemies. So it's kind of combining a couple of Twisted Fate's ability. I still miss the set 1 Twisted Fate. Maybe they bring it back eventually. Warwick, Admin, Laser Core Brawler 4-cost, Hack and Slash. Passive, Warwick gains Omnivamp, and upon his first takedown, he enters kill mode, granting himself 60% AS and causing him to leap to new targets for the rest of combat. And then he also attacks his target 6 times, dealing a bunch of physical damage. And if his target dies, he gains 10 mana for each remaining slash. Ultimate Ezreal is the next one. Infiniteam, Parallel, and Sure Shot. And then his ability is Alternate Ezrealities. Ezreal shatters the time stream, calling in a bunch of temporal duplicates of himself that each fire a blast of energy towards the largest group of enemies, and enemies hit by the blast take physical damage. By the way, there are a bunch of typos in here. It's not my fault. It's just what they give me. I'm sure it's not their fault either because they have to change this very often. But now onto the adjusted champions. This one's going to be a quicker rundown, but Ezreal is now an Underground Parallel and Quick Draw. Sivir's an Infiniteam and Sure Shot. She also just deals damage now instead of healing people. Kai'Sa is now a Star Guardian Quick Draw. Vayne no longer is a Recon. MF gains Quick Draw trait. Viego is also a Heart now, and then Janna is no longer a civilian. After that, they removed Galio, Talon, Yuumi, Senna, Cho'Gath, Zoe, Vel'Koz, Soraka, Zac, Sejuani, Zed, Set, Talia, and Aphelios. So mainly they got rid of a lot of tanks. I'm very surprised they removed Cho'Gath, but let me know so far what your favorite champion is or if you are going to miss any of these removed champions. But now onto the augments. This is the last section. But starting with Aatrox, this is just alphabetical right now. But Aatrox's carry augment is called Deathbringer. His ability now deals damage equals to 6% of his max health. So obviously health stacking on Aatrox is going to be great. And since they removed Zac, it's just like a replacement for that. Darken Assimilation. Gain in Aatrox when you field him, 50% of the damage your team receives is instead dealt over 4 seconds as non-lethal damage. Ooh, that could be very interesting on something like Oxforce perhaps. My Sword is your shield. This is Garen's carry augment. Combat start, when your strongest Garen casts his ability, Garen shields allies for 15% of their max health for 6 seconds. That one doesn't actually sound that great, but maybe I'm crazy. Full power to the sword, gain a Garen. His ability costs 40 less mana to cast and deals additional damage equal to 80% of his attack damage, but no longer stuns. Oh, I swapped these two by accident. The top one's a support one, bottom one's a carry one. After that, we have Synchronous Plating for Gnar. He gains 15 armor and MR, plus another 5 until the end of combat every time he damages an enemy with his ability. Temper Tantrum Gain a Gnar. When you field him, enemies take 10% more damage, increased to 20% the first time they are damaged by Gnar's attacks or abilities. Rule of 4 for Jin's carry. Every 4 enemies he kills each combat, he drops 7 gold. He occasionally also drops an item component. Very interesting. Wrath of the Rift. Gain a Jin. When you field him, your units start combat in the back 2 rows, deal 20% bonus damage. Pretty simple. Hyperbolic Time Chamber. Gain a Lucian. Every 2 times your strongest Lucian casts his ability, gain 1 experience point. Ooh, that's like a really good eco one. Enchanted Ammunition. Gain a Lucian. When you field him, your team gains ability power, and they also gain it when they attack, and this can stack. This one seems like insane, right? You put a Rage Blade on someone, they just get 2 AP every time they attack. This sounds pretty good to me, at least. Fear is Freedom. Gain a Morgana sends out 1 additional Dark Bindings when she casts her ability, and her Dark Bindings stun their targets for 1 additional second. Gas Giant Slayer. Gain a Morgana. When you field her, your team's abilities and attacks deal 25% more damage to enemies with more than 1600 max health. This is really good in like reroll lobbies where there will be a lot of people above the threshold. Easy Being Green. This is Nico's carry one. Gain a Nico and a Spear of Shojin. What? When you field her, allies holding Spear of Shojin gain 35% ability power. So it's kind of like the Vayne augment with Edge of Night. Starlight Resonance. Gain a Nico on combat start. And when your strongest Nico casts her ability, she grants herself and her closest allies 20 ability power until the end of combat. Chronic Hallucinations. Gain a Pantheon. He and his 4 nearest allies take 90% reduced damage for 6 seconds. The best offense, gain a Pantheon. He gains 50 AP and 100 magic resistance. Okay, I just realized like a bunch of these are swapped. I'll try to change these later because obviously this one's a carry one and this one's a support one. Your Cut for Pike. Gain a Pike after player combat rounds. Gain 1 free shop refreshes every 2 times your strongest Pike casts his ability last round. Small Game Hunter. Gain a Pike when you, oh my god, you deal more damage against enemies with less than 1400 max health. I wonder if eventually like a thing happens where you want to get like your tanks to exact HP thresholds. It'd be kind of funny to see. Anomalous Amplification. Gain a Shen. His ability lasts an additional 5 seconds and his tethered ally deals 20% more damage when protected. And then Recursion Matrix. Gain a Shen. When you field him, your team takes 8% reduced damage, tripled for 4 seconds when they cast abilities. Time and a Half. This is for Sivir. Gain a Sivir. After each player combat round, gain 1 gold for every 45 attack damage your strongest Sivir has. Oh, so you sure shot her, sit her in the back, try to make the fight last as long as possible. That's interesting. Mana Tempering. Gain a Sivir. When you field her, your team gains 15% attack damage and 5% when they cast abilities. Anti-Up. Gain a Twisted Fate. Every 20 cards thrown, your strongest TF drops 1 gold. Every 200, he drops an item component instead. I'm assuming this carries over from round to round. Gear Shift. Gain a Twisted Fate. When you field him, your team gains 12% attack speed doubled after they cast their ability for the first time each combat. Joy Siphon. This is Vex carry one. Gain a Vex. Vex heals her allies for 25% of the damage she deals. The support one is when you field her, your team gains 20 AP and 5 when they cast abilities. So this is similar to one of the other ones, except this is when it's on cast instead of on attack. Maybe you use this with like blue buff item holders, for example. Well Fed for Warwick. Gain, or I guess Well Fed Plus. Gain a Warwick. When you field him, your team gains 140 maximum health. This is increased by 1 every 2 times your strongest Warwick attacks. Wow. You could probably do like a QSS Rageblade build on Warwick to really maximize this. Big Data. Gain a Warwick. When you field him, your units deal 0.75% increased damage for every 100 health that they have. Okay, so that is going to round this video up. I'm going to keep it short because I don't have any fancy graphics or anything like that. So it's just pure information based. Go on the website if you want to read through more of these. But overall, my thoughts so far on 8.5, they're not changing too much. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I kind of liked last set, so I think it's a good thing. And also, Anima Squad wasn't touched. The only thing I'm a little sad about is Recon being gone, because Recon was definitely one of my like pocket pick comps throughout the set. And I'm going to have to find a new one, essentially. But definitely looking excited to just keep playing Anima Squad. In terms of like the new traits, what's my favorite? Well, there's only really one of them, Infinite Team. I guess Riftwalker's kind of cool. And I want to kind of see the 2 Ezreals interact with each other. In terms of units, I heard Morgana's really cool. And maybe something like, Aatrox should be a beast as well. Zac was kind of boring, not going to lie. So Aatrox, same concept or similar concept, should be a little better. And of course, Garen is back in action. Jhin, one of my favorite champions in League of Legends. Is there anyone else that I need to like shout out? There's only one new legendary. Kind of interesting. I wonder if there were more legendaries in different point 0.5 updates. But that's going to be it from me today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'll be playing PBE. It comes out in a couple of days, I believe on the 8th. So we'll definitely do some like viewer games on my stream, twitch.tv/BunnyMuffins LOL. So I really hope to see you guys there because I want to grind out like a lot more TFT in the next set. I already started doing that in set 8. So 8.5, I should just continue doing that. So hopefully if I have like a repeat of what I did last set, I'd be pretty happy. But of course, I'm always trying to do more. But that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I probably will do a PBE tier list, maybe just one of them or something like that. But that's going to be it for me today. Hope to see you guys later.